Hi, welcome everyone. This is Modex Network Voices, where we have an opportunity to interview folks who are in the housing and modular sector. And I'm joined today, Ryan Smith. I'm Ryan Smith. I'm joined today by my partner, Ivan Rupnik. Ivan, like to say hello.
Hi, Ryan. Hi, everybody.
And we have the pleasure at Modex of welcoming James Forsyth. James is the Director of Regional Development at BC Housing. And BC, meaning British Columbia. Welcome, James.
Hey, everyone.
James, thankfully, has joining us today to share some things that BC Housing is doing. And this is in preparation for our webinar that will be focused on Canada and initiatives around Canada on September 17th. So stay tuned for that. And we'll have links to how to register for that at the bottom of this video. James, welcome, and I think you have some things to share about BC Housing, which is a housing authority that works with municipalities, nonprofits, First Nations, and also for-profit development to realize housing access, housing affordability. So we're really excited to learn more about what's been going on in British Columbia. It's been in the media, and today we get James from the horse's mouth, so to speak, telling us exactly what he's trying to do, what he has done, and we're really excited about that. So welcome, James. Please share with us your screen, and we look forward to this presentation.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Alvin. And yeah, really wonderful pleasure to be here today. So BC Housing is a government-owned corporation in the province of British Columbia. We're responsible for what we call the continuum of housing. And so we work on projects anywhere from homeless shelters through to supportive housing, to affordable rental housing for families and seniors, to market rental, and even home ownership projects as well. BC Housing, we do direct delivery, so we will actually engage and develop these projects, but we also work with a lot of the stakeholders within the province, whether it be the municipalities, nonprofit societies, co-ops, First Nations, and also the private development industry as well. BC Housing has actually had a really good experience with modular housing over the last decade and beyond, and that kind of manifested in a number of programs that we've deployed. So one of the those first programs was the Seniors Rental Housing Initiative, and that's where we developed about 1,000 units of seniors housing over 3 years back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Vancouver and Whistler hosted the 2010 Olympic Games, and coming out of that, there was a bunch of athletes housing that we were offered, and we're able to then repurpose that for family housing. Later on in this past decade, we undertook a program called the Rapid Housing Initiative to provide supportive housing throughout the entire province of British Columbia. And most recently, we're working with the City of Vancouver on Permanent Modular Supportive Housing. So I can show you kind of some of those programs. So with that Seniors Rental Housing Initiative, we developed over 1,000 units of housing across the province. British Columbia is quite unique. We have some very dense urban areas, but then a lot of rural areas as well. And with this program, we decided to develop all of the housing units modular, and then for each specific community these housing projects we're going into, we would then have local trades be able to then develop the foundation systems, a lot of the exterior envelopes, and then the roof assemblies as well. So with these projects, it was just the actual units that were modular, and then there was quite a bit of in situ work, and that allowed us to take advantage of quality and consistency with the factory manufacturing process, but then also be able to engage with those local trades who understood kind of what the local needs were, and be able to work with them within their communities. Yeah, the next program that we had was with the Vancouver 2010 Olympic Games. We had a lot of athletes come to see to see Vancouver, and we had to house them for a number of weeks. And so VANOC, once the Olympics and Paralympics were complete, they actually then offered up a lot of the modular housing that they used, and a bunch of essentially kind of looks like the trailers and that sort of thing, but then offer that up to BC Housing to be able to repurpose and use for our affordable housing programs. With that, we're able to take quite a huge number of those modules and turn that into about 150 housing units throughout the province as well. And so taking something like this and being able to use those units as a core structure to develop living room, kitchen, bedroom layouts, and then put some good roof assemblies on that. And then you have a project like this, the Olympic Vista in over on Vancouver Island. Moving on to our Rapid Housing Initiative. This is probably the largest modular program that we worked on. There's over 2,000 units of supportive housing throughout the province. This project here in Vancouver on Heather Street, you look at this building and it doesn't look like it's modular. It looks like it was purpose built for the site. But for a lot of these projects, they were actually designed to be on these sites for 5 to 10 years, and then they would be relocated and potentially moved to another community or part of the city where there was a housing need. And so this project here is designed to be moved within 10 years. This is actually a long-term development site that will be developed, and you'll see something completely different on that site. Another site here, this is West 2nd, exact same thing. This was a redevelopment site that the city of Vancouver owned. It is right next to a SkyTrain station, and so there's going to be a very, very dense build out of the site. But as they're going through the municipal approval processes, they really didn't have a lot of use for this property. It was just a parking lot, and so they offered it up for the program. And so this building here, there isn't a single yard of concrete that's poured. Everything that's here is basically built on site to create as least amount of impact as possible. Huge amount of modular construction. All of the units were done in modular, and then we had that butterfly roof put on top in situ. And this building is designed to be fully relocatable. So we will move this building in the next couple of years and be able to redeploy it somewhere else. Another example, this is actually up in Kamloops. This building is going to be on site, quite a bit longer. We're looking probably at a 40-year tenure on this site, and so a little bit different build form, but still taking advantage of modular construction. And it was really great for us because we're able to take the development process, which could be anywhere from 2 to 5 years on a site, and shave that down to a matter of months. So that West 2nd project that I told you showed you, it was developed within 5 months. This project here in Kamloops was completed within, I think, 10 months, so within a full weather season. So really, really nice to see that we can deploy housing fast. And that's what the Rapid Housing Initiative program was all about, is that BC was suffering through a housing crisis, and we needed to address the needs of our homeless and at risk of homelessness populations as quickly as possible. So these types of projects were developed, and then there was also permanent housing that was put into development as well. These projects being complete within a year or two, the permanent housing taking quite a few more years. But we're able to get people housed much faster. And then once the permanent housing is ready to go, then people can move into that, and then we can strategically redeploy these assets as we need to. Looking forward, we have some other programs that we're doing. This is a very, very early concept for our permanent housing, for supportive housing. So this partnership with the City of Vancouver, we're looking to develop long-term housing, but using the lessons learned from that Rapid Housing Initiative and what we've learned about modular to then be able to construct these projects that much faster. So again, very, very short timelines as opposed to like a 5 or 7 year process to go through rezoning, entitlements, and construction and all that sort of stuff. We're looking to deploy a project like this in 2 to 3 years. And one of the other advantages with this is that there's a number of sites that we're going to be working on. So trying to scale our solutions. So as opposed to doing kind of one bespoke project and then another bespoke project, trying to find those lessons learned, trying to work with the modular manufacturers so that they can provide us economies of scale. We see there's a lot of potential advantage there. So kind of to wrap it up, some of the tools that BC Housing is using for our modular programs. The first one is partnership. We recognize that we cannot create that end-to-end solution. So partnerships to first find a piece of land is key. So working with our regional stakeholders, with the municipalities, when we did that rapid housing initiative and actually the seniors housing initiative, and even this permanent modular housing initiative, we said, if you can bring us the land, we will bring the capital funding and the operating funding to the projects. And that's something that kind of speaks to some of the strengths that are out there. There's lots of municipalities that have those land assets, or regional development groups that have those land assets, and whether they can offer it up for maybe a couple of years for a temporary modular type project, or if they can offer it for a long-term tenure, we can take advantage of that. And number two would be design guidelines and standards. And so BC Housing, we have a pretty robust set of design standards for any of the affordable housing projects that we work on. But through our modular programs, we're able to then provide a kind of a subset of that speaks to some of the more common techniques that are used in modular construction. So we can still ensure that we're getting a really good quality product that is going to work for the tenants and then also the operators. Third, pre-qualified build teams. So there's a lot of modular manufacturers out there, but we want to make sure that the groups we're partnering with, we're able to provide that end-to-end expertise that's needed for a project. So groups that either have the in-house expertise or going to be partnering with design teams to get your municipal entitlements, groups who have the capacity to do the manufacturing and keep it of good quality and standard, and then also having the teams who do all the in situ work. So whether they have the capacity to deploy their own general contractor, or they're partnering with local trades to then do any of the work that's required on site. That was really key for us, and that certainly helps to achieve success for these projects. Partnerships again on the operations side is absolutely key. So we can design a building, but if you don't have that operational expertise at the table when you're doing the design, you might make a lot of mistakes. And this leads into my last one, is around project management and lessons learned. We learned very early on that there are some limitations to modular construction, but there's also things you need to be able to take advantage of as well. And taking those lessons learned and closing that feedback loop as quickly as possible, sharing that information for projects, whether it be in one municipality or across the province for us, was absolutely key, because those then become scalable solutions for scalable projects. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Evan.
Really great. Thank you, James. Really appreciate the sharing. Presents a lot of questions and a lot of learning. So I'm going to let Ivan start here, and then we'll get into some more questions. Go right ahead, Ivan.
Yeah, thanks, James. A really impressive program. Again, we've been following it from across the south of the border, watching it kind of unroll, and it looks incredibly successful. Just trying to understand maybe where some other barriers along the way might have occurred. One thing we've noticed, at least with public programs in the modular space, is that sometimes the strength becomes the weakness. In this case, the speed, or as you guys say, the rapidity of deployment. Sometimes the public sector sees that as simply a temporary solution, which in some cases it is. As you move, for example, from some of these temporary programs to more permanent programs, is that something that has impacted, for example, the perception of modular? Is modular seen as a permanent? Is it actually seen as a permanent solution? And are there other barriers that this very successful program has overcome or continues to overcome that you can sort of share with our viewers?
For sure. Yeah, what I showed you was just that tip of the iceberg, and there was so many challenges and so many changes and iteration that were required to get all those products to where they were. In terms of the almost the stigma that may be out there around modular construction, it's absolutely something that takes time. So for us, the idea of doing modular projects, it really was something that was seeded from within. So we do lots of lunch and learns. We're constantly looking for new technologies, and so there was a lot of engagement with the modular industry before we actually did any of these projects, and continued engagement to see how they're building their capacities and technologies and that sort of stuff. A great example that I have, because it's not only with our teams we need to get that understanding, but also with the public and their perception as well, that it's absolutely key. And so when we did that, the Rapid Housing Initiative and that temporary modular housing, before we actually applied for any of the permits, there was a couple of demonstration units that were developed, and then they were actually placed within downtown Vancouver, and then another one just in one of the suburbs as almost like an open house, just so that the public can see what modular construction is all about. And most people would walk through the units and say, wow, hey, I would love to live here, or I love my university student, a son or daughter to live here, and that sort of thing. And so they really saw that the standards of construction were very, very similar to what you would expect with any kind of bespoke building, and that has certainly helped us to be able to share and for people to gain a kind of a broader understanding of what modular construction was. What we're trying to do, and you look at those pictures, they look like typical buildings. They're not a trailer park or a site construction trailer or something along those lines.
That's helpful. With regards to, I just want to make our audience aware of this temporary build program, these buildings that are only there for a number of years, and then 5 years, and then can be disassembled or relocated. We have a great talk on MUDX Voices from Reese Kane, who will also be part of our panel on September 17th, where he shows some of the details. So for the techies out there, we do have those temporary foundation details that do not involve concrete. So please take a look at those on Reese Kane's talk. A question for you, James. In working with the municipalities, say City of Vancouver, right, in the BC Housing Program and this Rapid Housing Initiative, one of the barriers that's been identified over the years with instituting modular for housing, especially for multifamily, multi-level housing, is the regulatory agents, the local municipalities maybe not understanding how this process works or how modular can be deployed. So you just mentioned a prototype, which can help to educate that. Was there something else that you did with the municipalities to help, so quote unquote, grease the skids on the process to allow for permits to happen faster, to also help with entitlements? Was there something that was agreed upon from the beginning that alleviated some of those barriers and those bumps we see in deploying modular construction for housing?
Yeah, for sure. So I mentioned that land partnership. So that was kind of one of the key pieces where we said, look, if you're going to bring us land, we can do the project, and you start to build trust right then and there. I think one of the things we absolutely recognized is that there are some constraints with modular construction, and if you're going through either your zoning or development or building permits, and you're asked to make changes, sometimes that can be very, very cost prohibitive in a modular world. You're trying to create these scaled solutions and work essentially within a box that you can transport to site. And so if a planner is asking for something that may impact the construction process or transportation or whatever, there's a huge knock-on effect. So understanding those and being able to provide some of that education before you're going through the municipal approvals is key. With our projects, because we were doing a very, very similar design over and over and over again, the first couple of projects, it was challenging, and there was a lot of back and forth and working with our municipal partners and the planning and building departments so that they could understand, well, why did we make those decisions, or if there's a problem that they've identified that they want us to solve, here's what we're thinking as a solution that's going to work in the context of modular. The last thing that we had was, within the city of Vancouver, and there's 600 of those temporary modular units that we deployed there. We actually set up a steering meeting that happened weekly, and every single department that was involved within the city of Vancouver and BC Housing and our partners, we were meeting on a weekly basis for this project. So to take that development process from 5 years down to 5 months, it required us to meet that frequently, but also any problems that were coming up within those weekly meetings. There was kind of an unspoken commitment by everyone on who was participating to solve that problem within a week. And I think it was really great to see that the general managers, BC Housing executive, and all the stakeholders there, they were giving the staff and everyone working on those projects the license to solve those problems and be able to move ahead as quickly as possible. So I think there's a number of key pieces that you need in order to be able to take advantage of that speed that modular can offer for your projects.
And maybe building on this talk, which has been great, and thinking about we're going to be speaking to other folks from Canada. Can you talk a little bit about the impact that, we've come to you because we see British Columbia as a real leader, both within Canada, and we hope to apply these lessons to the US. How have those lessons already started to translate and impact other provinces, other cities in Canada? How is this seems to be growing, moving east? Can you talk a little bit about how this is starting to translate to other contexts within the Canadian context?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a huge amount of lessons learned from our program. We're trying to share as much as we can on BC Housing's website. There's quite a few of studies and reports on the outcomes from the projects, we've been able to offer up and say, look, the designs that we implemented on these projects, please use them, modify them as you see fit, and that sort of thing. So people often do look at the successes of these projects, and like I said, we're just looking at the little tip of the iceberg there, and there's just so much more that happened kind of underneath. So I think opportunities through these sorts of sessions, we can demonstrate some of the successes that can be achieved on these projects, and hopefully someone can kind of take what we've done and build on that. So we're very excited to see that, and then correspondingly to be able to learn from what other groups have done, and maybe apply that in British Columbia as well.
Maybe one final question for you, James, and that is, speaking of what we would call capacity or capability of the manufacturers and stakeholders themselves that are delivering these projects.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there's been quite a bit of movement and change in the companies in Canada to accommodate and meet the demand for this kind of housing, the supportive housing. And there's been acquisitions, there's been mergers that have happened, and certainly, modular companies that were oil and gas, servicing oil and gas, or workman camps and transitioning to deliver this type of housing. And I know there's a lot of bumps in the road or learning that those companies have to go through, but it seemingly you have kind of been willing to go along that path with them as they've transitioned as companies to build that capacity. Can you speak to any of that, or the process or the understanding behind that? Are there any government incentives for that, or is that all just here's demand, now produce a supply, and we'll be patient as you ramp up your capabilities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when we did the Rapid Housing Initiative, there were a lot of the modular manufacturers that we're working with today that were focused on the oil and gas sector in Alberta, and so the oil sands were going through a bit of a slowdown, and so they absolutely had that capacity that was available. Correspondingly, at that same time, the housing markets within Vancouver and British Columbia were very, very hot, and it was very challenging to get stable pricing from our general contractors and subtrades. So we certainly saw a huge opportunity there. And over the course of that Rapid Housing Initiative program, in kind of an 18-month period where we did those projects with the City of Vancouver, the general market saw price escalation in the range of probably 10 to 16%, and yet with our products, because we deployed modular construction, we worked with our partners to understand their supply chains to take advantage of those. We saw a substantial amount of stability in the pricing, and from the first product to the end, we only saw escalation of about 1, maybe 2% at most. So what we've really found is scalable solutions are key here, and to help to support the sector in in developing their capacity, one project here and one project there, the work is great, but to help them create their own capacity, bringing in a program where we're going to be doing 10 projects like this, or 5 projects. And they could even be in different municipalities or something like that, but bringing kind of a scaled amount of projects to a group, that then allows them to dedicate the resources needed to give you that sort of devotion and customer service, to be quite frank, with the products, and then get a kind of a really good outcome. So, when I see the lessons learned that we've had from this program, I absolutely appreciate that the sector has gone through a huge amount of their own growth and lessons learned as well. And I think looking at the needs out there and the housing crises or challenges that either states, regions, municipalities, or counties are going through, looking at kind of one project here, one project there may not be the best solution if you're trying to get the sort of outcomes that I've shared today. Looking at a larger scale, even though that there may be some risks there, I think that's something that certainly BC Housing has been able to mitigate. But as a result, we've also been able to take advantage of that too.
Well, this is very consistent with what we're hearing from folks to try and set up a series of projects. We call it the rule of 3, at least 3 projects sort of lined up. We saw it in Scotland when they were launching some prefabrication factories there. They needed the assurance that there were a set of projects that they could then go out, get some capital and invest in their operations to be able to ramp up and meet that demand. So that's a consistent story, and I think a lesson that you've shared with us that we would also share with folks on this side of the border as well, that you really need that. So I want to thank you, Ivan, and I thank you for coming on ModX Voices and sharing, James, and look forward to chatting more with you on the 17th, where we will have our ModX Canada webinar. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.